Welcome back to Co-op Radio 102.7 FM, CFRO. You're listening to Monday Brown Bagger. My name is Reginald Angus Argue. At this time, we're having a little bit of technical problems, so we've called our second guest and we've put the microphone right up to the phone, and we're going to do it old-fashioned way right now because we're having problems with our phone here. Now, before I introduce our guest, I'd like to say that I'm not a backer of Mr. Obama, because I view what he's doing right now is he's still keeping the war crimes going, the false wars in Afghanistan, Iraq going, and which is only enriching a few, where it oppresses the masses of these nations. A stimulus package that awards the super rich with taxpayer money while forcing ordinary people to live in homeless camps. And a war on terrorism that I view as like the persecution oppression in 1984 becoming a reality throughout the world. With the above said, our second guest is a very outspoken, controversial individual whose YouTube video of Hail Hitler, Hail Obama has caught my eyes, and I'm someone who believes strongly that sooner or later history repeats itself, and the only thing that keeps us safe is to learn from our past and do not let the atrocities from our past being repeated within our times. As I finish saying this, our upcoming guest, who is in charge of the ATLAH ministry out of New York, has courageously put himself on the line to speak his word out to others. And now I'd like to introduce Honorable Pastor David James Manning.
Thank you, Reginald, for having me. It's good to be on your program today.
Well, thank you so much. And for the listening audience, on May 4th, 2009, we played your video right before we did an interview with Jesse Woodruff, And what happened was our listening audience got a chance to hear everything that was in there. Could you quickly, for the people that hadn't had a chance to listen to that, could you quickly just briefly touch on everything that was said in that video ever so briefly?
You mean Hail Hitler, Hail Obama?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, essentially what I was pointing out going back is during the primary season, this was before Obama actually stole the nomination from Hillary Clinton. I was pointing out how the comparison between Hitler and Obama in terms of their meteor type of rise, the large crowds being attracted to them, how they came from nowhere to amass a great amount of power suddenly, and that Obama being the orator that he is, Hitler being the orator that he is, Hitler being sort of a dysfunctional family product, Obama being the similar dysfunctional family product as well, and they're both seizing power and their plans for what they will do, and how people are just abdicating all reasonable constraints and are pretty much worshiping and believing everything that this leader says, even though it is obvious that most of the things that he believes and says are maniacal. I kind of pointed that out in the comparison of the two, and they compare even greater at present. I could, and then a little bit later on, I'll talk a little bit more about how this comparison has really panned out since the election.
And what happens is right now there's 20 czars which are running the economy within the United States of America, appointed by the Obama administration, and they only have to report to the president. They don't have to report to the people. To me, I view this as an example of the 5-year plans which were used during the old Soviet Union days of Lenin and Stalin. With this in mind, one could say that the American people are being marched towards the United Soviet Union. Pastor, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, not only do we have these czars, and the most recent one just appointed last week was the pay czar, who now looks at any major corporation in America and looks at the CEO or any other executive's pay scale, and if the Obama administration does not approve of it, can either remove that person, regulate their pay, and Congress has not approved this. This has been done by executive order, and no one is rising up in Congress to stop this activity. Moreover, Obama has put in place an executive order that allows the Obama administration under the Federal Treasury Act to review any business that is subject to taxes, to go into that business if that business looks like it's either leaning in a way that could be anti the political structure for the day, whether you call it anti-American or anti-Obama administration has the power now, because that corporation pays taxes and subject to tax regulations, to go in and to dismantle that corporation, just like they did Chrysler, just like they did General Motors. And as you know, that the Obama administration, or they say now the American taxpayer, owns 80% of AIG, 34% of Citicorp, which is a massive $1 trillion banking industry, and 60% of General Motors. And the beat just goes on. Hitler did the exact same thing, and the people stood by and watched that happen. These czars that you made mention of are being established, and they only have to answer to Obama. Most people don't even know who they are. Congress is not. They're not responsible to Congress or any kind of legislation. Only the Obama administration.
And what happens is there's a song from the 60s put out. It's called One Tin Soldier. And it talks about the people on the hilltop willing to share with the people in the valley. Now, with that in mind, I'd like to quickly, if Pastor, I'm just going to quickly, briefly talk about something, and I'll get you to comment on it. Here in Vancouver, there's a part of it's called East Hastings, which is the poorest postal code here in Canada. You're watching people using drugs. You're watching people sleeping in the street. You're watching alcoholism. You're seeing people that their spirit's been torn from them. While we watch companies like Ash Grove and Lafarge. Lafarge is the biggest cement company in the United States and Canada, with headquarters over in France. We're watching them stealing our province blind. And what happens is that while this is happening, you're watching bureaucrats and politicians are standing by and not doing anything about it, as shown by the court documents I have on my website and other pieces of information under the link of God Agreed. Now, with one of the 10 commandments being thou shalt not steal, Pastor, how can we, the people of the province of British Columbia, Canada, regain the taxable assets and have them returned to our public coffers, which would mean lower taxes and more social programs and higher minimum wage to help the people, in keeping with the memory of Jesus Christ when he would go out and help out all people, in keeping with the saying, I am my brother and sister keeper?
I'm not sure of the structure of government, legislators, senators, how that operates, that then oversees how monies and businesses operate in Canada. I don't know that very well, so it would be very difficult for me to talk about a legislative way of approaching such. Well, but basically, all around the world, the way this is done is that you make the people who are stealing, the people who are involved in the ripoff, you make them pay by uniting the people who are being abused with a strong voice of people being abused, and then from within that group, you must choose a leader. And I'll tell you this, that you're not going to get anywhere with corporations that I just heard you make mention of, with headquarters in France and ripping off the way they're ripping off. Someone's going to have to step to the front who's going to be willing to sacrifice themselves, sacrifice perhaps their liberty in order to lead the group. But the group ultimately will be victorious. But it will not happen without